I know you visited the concentration camps. What does that place hold for you? For me, it's sheer evil, but I don't know what you could take out of that. On a scale of 1 to 10, I think we are still very, very unpeaceful in the 21st century, and we just ahead of the victory of Donald Trump and what that holds for NATO, what it holds for the world, what it holds for Europe, and the war in Ukraine, the war between Russia and Ukraine, the Middle East, and all those confusions down there. As an artist, what do you make of the concentration camp? Today we are having someone special in our midst. We're having a multifaceted artist, and we're about to talk about bits and pieces of different things. We're about to talk about art. We're about to talk about the importance of life, the importance of creating meaning for ourselves down here, and how life ordinarily should go down here. We have an artist from Canada, so we'll get to know him in a bit.
Hi.
Hi.
So my name's Amer. My full name's Amer Rashid. Thank you for having me here in this beautiful space. I mean, Obinna was just telling me the story of how this place is pre-World War.
True.
Which is amazing because it has seen so much history.
Yep, indeed.
It was there before the Warsaw Rising.
Yeah.
And it survived the bombing.
Of course.
Yeah, amazing, like insane history. But yeah, I'm originally from Bangladesh. I was born over there. I spent a big part of my life growing up there, and then eventually I moved to Canada. And yeah, I live in Montreal, so it's the French Canadian part of the country. So and ever since I got here a month ago, it's been one experience after another, and they've been really inspiring and quite. I mean, for me, traveling has brought me many things. It has. I think it is important to see outside of what you're used to put yourself outside of your comfort zone. It helps to. It's part of your growth, but it's also, you know, like a way to expand and to connect with like-minded people, to find people who you share something with in somewhere that's so far away. So all of that has been throughout the years I've seen that with traveling, but Poland in particular has been special in its own way. So and today I have a flight to take to the UK, so I'm leaving, but I do plan on coming back. So yeah, I do plan on seeing you again.
Our troubles. Yep. The idea of war has been a thing that has fascinated me in the 21st century. We've been fighting for the longest. Civilization has thrived through war. It has not really thrived by way of peace. And one can argue that in modern times we're experiencing peace in a different way as it concerns stability in life and through generations, opposed to what ordinarily used to be in times past. Many persons will argue about this, but on a scale of 1 to 10, I think we are still very, very unpeaceful in the 21st century, and we just ahead of the victory of Donald Trump and what that holds for NATO, what it holds for the world, what it holds for Europe, and the war in Ukraine, the war between Russia and Ukraine, the Middle East, and all those confusions down there. As an artist, what do you make of the concentration camp? I know you visited the concentration camps. What does that place hold for you? For me, it's sheer evil, but I don't know what you could take out of that.
So the first concentration camp I visited was right before the pandemic. It was in 2000 in 2020 2000 and or 2019, and it was the Dachau concentration camp. So from Munich you can basically take a bus and they take you there, and yeah, I mean it's powerful, it's intense, it's so hard to see what people are able to inflict on one another, and yeah, it's yeah, like I remember walking out and I mean being there and crying in the house because it was so intense. And this time I was close to. I was doing a residency in Rzeszów in like close to Rzeszów. It was in a small village called Saturnia, and so Krakow wasn't that far. And from Krakow you can go to probably the most famous death camp,
Auschwitz?
which is Auschwitz-Birkenau. So from Krakow you can go to Auschwitz, you can go to Birkenau. You see these iconic images right in front of you, that image that you know so well, that you've probably seen so many times, this of the rail tracks going into this place where people were murdered, Jewish people, Poles, Roma people, people who were considered sexually divergent, and all the experiments that followed. What bothers me right now is because I cannot talk about that without talking about what, and that was what the question was, is about what's going on now. So I will have to talk about what's going on now. I have visited Israel. Right after visiting Dachau and stuff, I visited Israel. I had really important conversations. And yeah, I could see how the whole thing was complicated. But what is happening now is, and I in Montreal, I live in a Hasidic Jewish neighborhood, and they were, during the Second World War, they were one of the first people to be, because they didn't even need a Jewish star on them. You can basically look at them and know they're Jewish. So they were almost completely wiped out. But for me, what's interesting to see is I've seen the Palestine protests in Montreal, and the Hasidic Jews are there, and they talk about how the state of Israel has been responsible for so much bloodshed. So the fact that the Holocaust has been has been weaponized in this case to carry out genocide on a people who basically live in a situation that is almost like like very cramped, and they're being asked to forcibly leave.
It's also a thing of consent for me, when people talk about the fact that you cannot really criticize Israel for what they are doing because it's like anti-Semitic on your own part to get to do that. But I don't really think so. I think, like you rightly pointed out, a thing was meted out on a group of people almost 100 years ago, and it was barbaric. It was condemned by all of the world. It has come to be called the Holocaust and all that. I think also what they get to do now against the Palestinians, it's also a thing that was done to them. So you cannot say because you were criticized for doing something, because a group of people were criticized for ordinarily trying to kill you, you also at the moment cannot do that to them. So it's like unacceptable, right?
Yes. and goes back to where I live also, because I can see it's basically a settler society, and yeah, Canada and North America. In Canada, they're also coming to terms with uh, uh, with the fact that this was also a settler society, and the First Nations were wiped out, and we're also living on their blood. And uh, so, yes, I mean, humanity. Well, going back to the first question you asked, humanity has this very dark side, and. And yeah, I mean, a war brings out the worst in them. It brings out, and like what is inflicted upon the most helpless, the children, the women, the old people, yeah, innocence, basically, as a show of power, as a it's and and how you, yeah, this dark side of humanity, I feel like we are becoming more and more and more technologically advanced. We have all these, and now we'll have more weapons with which will be artificial intelligence, like driven by AI, and there's nuclear stuff. There's so, but and technology is developing, but in our core, we are still what we haven't really connected with who we are at our core, and unless we really know who we are and we connect to this dark side and know what we're capable of, and I think that's also why, I think that's why psychoanalysis and the work of Carl Jung is important, the collective unconscious, and how we can project our darkness onto others and use it to basically kill people. And it's also important in understanding this new rise in fascism. Like, Netanyahu is a fascist, and a lot of Putin is a fascist. I feel like all these
The KGB agents and the gangs, those guys that played the whole stuff down there, and
yeah.
like the boys of Stalin. And
Yeah, I even see, even though the US, like, they can call themselves as the, uh, yeah, like, they like to play this part of the good guys, but, they are a powerful force, and in the Trump movement, I see, elements of fascism in these huge rallies, in the way you have this figure who's a very strong man, who pretends to be this strong hero who will save you in the so, and I'm not saying that the Democrats are great or anything. I'm just saying you see movements in this in this like in this archetype of this strong man who will save society, and this is very dangerous, and this we're seeing more and more in Argentina. We've seen it with Milei, in a bunch of European countries. We've seen it, and yeah, in South America. I mean, Bangladesh, my country, just went through a revolution because we've had a dictator for the last few years. So, so this archetype of someone who's going to save you from all your problems, and you just, this strong patriarchal figure, and you just put your power and all your rights at the feet of this person. This is also, yeah, I mean, it probably goes down very deep into our collective psyche, and we have to be aware of these things, otherwise we'll just keep making the same mistakes, and there will be a Holocaust 2 and a Holocaust, other forms of these genocides, and more. I mean, this century is just starting.
With the rise of all of these things you've talked about, Argentina has been in this for a very, very long time. You could see even the Catholic Pope, he was criticized for having hands in for 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 having ties with the government that ordinarily got to oppress his people right when he was a Jesuit superior professor back then in the 90s up until when things kind of calm down. But then these things don't really calm down and they get to come back one way or the other. And I think it's something that lives with him for a very long time. And we also see someone like Pope John Paul. His Polish people suffered a whole lot, and he played a lot of role as it concerns bringing down the Soviet Union. Going forward, what are the things you think ordinarily we should do to curb down these temptations that loom around us, these dark sides that ordinarily can come out? Because as a long life student of philosophy and a lover of philosophy, I know that Carl Jung is someone you ordinarily, if you really want to go deeper into the human self, you ordinarily shouldn't get to avoid. And someone also like Dostoevsky is someone Russia gave us that will forever remain in the canon of existentialism. What do you think we should ordinarily do to try to like battle this existential crisis we get to have, and then from there we could talk a bit of existentialism and your take on that?
Um, how to move forward? It's it's a tricky one because it's easy to feel helpless in this situation because uh, as an individual you feel so small. You feel and these powers are so big. These huge corporations that continue to exploit these massive governments that are always playing against each other, and you have smaller countries which suffer because of that, and 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 smaller groups of people, and and you have yeah, it's easy to feel despair in a situation like this, and yeah, and our lives are so short. Also, you almost feel like what can you do? You can just let live your little life and do you have your bills to pay, you have your things to do, and you just take care of your life and your family and your friends, and make sure you're a good person to your immediate surroundings. Now, maybe doing something, and that almost seems like you're giving up, but maybe even within those small surroundings, if you can make even a little bit of difference, even if you can be the best person you can be, that can create some kind of ripple effect that will that can pass and that can expand and create something better. At the same time, it is important to make our voice. I think it's also important to make our voices heard as people, to take a stance when you can. I mean, sometimes it's too much to bear, and it's okay to take your time. But and this comes from people who can live in that kind of privilege, because if you're in Palestine or in Ukraine, you don't have that privilege to be able to say, oh, I'm just taking my time. So you are so you but yeah, you have to. I guess at some point we do have to organize. We do have to make our voices heard. I've also been coming across how the West, despite being, all its pretensions maybe being the defender of free speech and stuff, they have been clamping down on climate protests a lot. So more and more climate protesters are getting increasingly bigger prison sentences, and so you're having these. So I feel like it's this moment of also where there's just been a rise in the police state and the rise in and as humans, as individuals, we try to live our little lives and be the best people, but we do have to. We can try to organize in little ways, and I feel like even this is about that. Even the work you're doing here, I feel it is about that. These small pockets of resistance that we can create. The work that you're doing here and these little pockets of resistance that you're creating here, even this is important to maybe make our voices heard in the long run.
Yeah, for someone like me who is from Africa, it's a concern. It's a serious concern. You sit down every day, you read up about Africa, you read up about the world, you read up about Sudan, you read up about Syria, you read about Yemen, you read about Yugoslavia, you read about all these things, and you just soaked within this phase whereby you almost see yourself very, very helpless. And many persons I've talked to, you're like, Africa cannot get better, the world cannot get better, and people despair. And like someone like James Baldwin would say, I cannot afford despair, because what do I tell the little children? What do I tell my children? We cannot tell these children that the world cannot get better. And many persons, the way they get to tell people that the world cannot get better is to tell themselves that I'm not going to give birth to kids. I'm just going to do everything as much as possible not to give birth to a suffering robot. I don't think human beings are robots. I think the world has much more to give to us. I think we also have much more to give back to the world. It's a collaboration we are still yet to do. It's something I think we ordinarily must come to do if we must come to make sense out of our life. It's in and about this crisis and the problems we get to face as humans that sometimes leave me confused, and it leaves many persons also confused. But then there's also hope. There's hope for a better world. There's hope for brighter days ahead. There's hope for peace. And the human mind is so creative and it's so powerful, and it can do good as much as it can do evil. And we ordinarily should strive to do better, and we have to start somewhere. But at the moment, it's still it looks like a long way ahead of here, but nothing in history has shown that things ordinarily get that bad and then they cannot get fixed. Things can easily be changed, and we hope that things get to change. I've been your host, Biringkpa Nemeka. This is Boring Conversation, and we'll have here with us
Amir Rashid.
See you next time.